Turn to your next blank page in your journal, put today's date at the top, and the title of today's lesson is Lesson 8-2, Area of Parallelograms. We have one vocabulary word today, and it is parallelogram. A parallelogram is any quadrilateral with opposite sides that are parallel and equal. Today we're going to be finding area of parallelograms that are considered a square, a rectangle, and then a basic parallelogram. Our next vocabulary word is area. Area is the number of square units needed to cover a given space. Area is measured in units squared or square units. Remember that when we found perimeter, we label it in just the unit: inches, feet, miles, centimeters. With area, we measure in square units. So I could say centimeter square or square centimeters. I could say feet squared or square feet. Now notice, look at my picture here. Area takes up the entire inside of my polygon, and it's how many squares it takes to fill in the given polygon. Whereas perimeter is going to be the distance around the outside edge. So remember, if you are going around an object, you're finding its perimeter. If you are finding how much space is inside, you're finding the area. If you would pull out your formula charts, please, and let's write down our formulas that we're going to need to know today. Our first figure is a rectangle. And if you will notice on your formula chart, your formula for area of a rectangle is A equals LW. And we know that LW really means length times width. The next formula we need to know is the formula for area of a square. The formula for area of a square is A equals S squared. Remember, S squared, or S to the second power, does not mean S times 2. It really means S times S. The next formula you need to know is for area of a parallelogram. The formula for area of a parallelogram is BH, or base times height. Here's the important thing to remember about finding the base and the height. Your base and height always meet at a right angle. Because think about when you go to the doctor and they're measuring your height. They make you stand up tall and straight. You're not leaning forward like this line is, so it is not the height. My height here is my dotted line. Notice there's where the right angle is formed. So here is my base, and here is my height. So let's practice. Number 1 says find the area of the square. Remember, area is how many square units are inside my figure. So one way that I could find the area of this square is to count how many squares are inside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I know that by counting, the area of my square is 16 units squared, or 16 square units. But if I don't want to count all of the squares, I can use my formula for area of a square, which is A equals S squared. Remember, S stands for the length of the side of a square. So let's count each side. 1, 2, 3, 4. So each side of my square is 4 units. So instead of saying S squared, I'm going to let S equal 4. So A equals 4 squared. So remember, 4 squared really means 4 times 4. So my area is 16 units squared. Now notice I just put a U for units because I'm not sure, it doesn't tell me if my measurements are in inches, centimeters, millimeters, so I just put a U for units. Okay, number 2 asked me to find the area of a rectangle. Once again, I could count all of the squares inside my rectangle, or I can use my formula, and my formula for area of a rectangle is length times width. So I have a length of 1, 2, 3, a width of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm going to plug in my length and width. So I'm going to say 3 times 7. So the area of my rectangle is 21. I have to label it. I don't know what each unit is, so I'm just going to put a U for units. So it is 21 units squared. Number 3 says find the area. Be sure to label your answer. First, we have to know the correct shape in order to use the correct formula. I know that this is a rectangle, so I'm going to use my formula for area of a rectangle. My formula for area of a rectangle is length times width. I know that my length is 15, my width is 12, so I'm going to solve 15 times 12. I'm going to come to my margin and multiply. 2 times 5 is 10, carry the 1. 2 times 1 is 2 plus 1 is 3. Add a 0. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 1 is 1. Now I can add 0, 8, 1. So the area of this rectangle is 180. I'm measuring it in inches, so it is 180 square inches. I could also write it like this and still be correct. I would like for you to hit pause, try number 4 on your own. When you're ready to continue, hit play. Okay, let's check your work. You should have known that this figure is a square, and your formula you should have written down for area of a square is S to the second power, and S is going to be equal to 52 because each side of my square is 52 centimeters. So area equals 52 to the second power, which means 52 times 52. I'm going to come to my margin and multiply. 2 times 2, 4. 2 times 5 is 10. Add a 0. 5 times 2 is 10. Carry the 1. 5 times 5 is 25. Plus 1 is 26. I'm going to add 4, 0, 7, 2. So the area of my square is 2,704. Make sure you label it centimeters squared, or you could say square centimeters. If you got it right, give yourself a smiley face. Number 5. Number 5 is a parallelogram. It's not a square nor a rectangle because it doesn't have the 4 right angles. So I need to correct the correct formula for finding area of a parallelogram. And the formula for area of a parallelogram is BH, or base times height. Remember that your base and height have to meet at a right angle. Notice here's the right angle here. So here is my base, And my height is my line that's standing up tall and straight, which is my dotted line. So the length of my base is 3. My height is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now I can plug into my formula. Instead of saying A equals B times H, I can say A equals 3 times 10. So the area of my parallelogram is 30. I don't know what unit we're using to measure, so I'm just going to use a U for unit. And since it's area, it's going to be units squared because it's how many squares it takes to fill the inside of a shape. Number 6. We need to know that number 6 is a parallelogram. So the first thing I need to do is look at my formula chart and find my formula for area of a parallelogram. And it is base times height. Now remember, your base and height always meet at a 90-degree angle. Here's a 90-degree angle, and I can also move it down here if I want. So my base is going to be 9. My height is where it's standing up tall and straight, which is my dotted line here. So my height is 4. So now I can plug in. Instead of saying A equals B times H, I can say A equals 9 times 4. So the area of this parallelogram is 36 centimeters squared. So if I had small centimeter squares, it would take 36 to cover the inside of my parallelogram. Let's look at question number 7. If you would sketch number 7 in your journal, please. Now, the first thing I need to determine is what shape it is. It is a parallelogram. So my formula for area of a parallelogram is base times height. So the first thing I have to do is find the base and height. Notice that my parallelogram is turned, but I can rotate it in order to find the base and the height. Here's my base and height that meet at my right angle. So here's my base. My dotted line is how tall it is, which is 8. So my base is 12 because remember, opposite sides are parallel and equal. Here is my height. So now I'm going to plug into my formula. Instead of saying A equals BH, I'm going to say A equals 12 times 8. So the area of my parallelogram, 12 times 8, is 96. Make sure you label it square feet. Okay, let's change things up a little bit for question number 8. If you would please draw this parallelogram into your journal and go ahead and label it parallelogram. And we can go ahead and write our formula for area of a parallelogram, which is base times height. Notice, here's my right angle, so that means this side is my base, which notice they don't give me the base. That's what I'm going to have to look for. And I know here's my dotted line, my height, where it's standing up tall and straight. So my height is 24. And notice this time they give me the area and the height and want me to find the base. So since I know the area is 216 square meters, under A for area, I'm going to put 216. I don't know the base, so I'm going to leave it as the variable B, times the height is 24. So now I have to figure out what number times 24 equals 216. So I can solve that as a division problem. I can see how many times 24 divides into 216. Since I know 24 won't go into 2 or to 21, let's guess and check to figure out how many times it will go into 216. I know that I wanted to end in a 6, and I know that 4 times 4 is 16 and ends in a 6, so I'm going to start with 24 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16, carry the 1. 4 times 2 is 8, 8 plus 1 is 9, so I know that is too small. So I'm going to try again. Can you think of anything else that I can multiply by 4 by that'll end in a 6? Well, 9, because 9 times 4 is 36, so let's try 9. 9 times 4 is 36, carry the 3. 9 times 2 is 18. 18 plus 3 is 21. There's the 216. So 24 divides into 216 9 times with none left over. So B, or my base, is equal to 9 meters. Make sure you don't put meter squared because I'm not finding the area, I'm just finding the length of the base. I would like for you to hit pause, draw this table into your journal. When you're ready again, hit play. Okay, this time we're going to be finding area of rectangles. So the formula that we're going to use for area of a rectangle is LW, or length times width. Here's the length, here's the width, and here's the area. Notice it's all in inches. So it's going to be length times width equals the area. So if my length is 15 and my width is 3, what is my area going to be? Correct, 45. And since it has inches squared already at the top of my column, I do not have to add it here. Now let's look at the next row. On the next row, notice I'm given the length and I'm giving the area, but I have to find the width. So let's use our example here. We said 15 times 3 is 45. So let's figure out how we could work backwards. If I didn't know the 3, I could do the area, 45, divided by the length 15 to equal 3. So to find the width on the second row, we can do the area, 44, divided by the length, 22. So that means the width of my rectangle is 2. Let's look at the next row. I know the area is 32 and the width is 4. So how can I find the length? You're correct. I can divide the area by the width. So 32 divided by 4 is 8. Now let's look at the next row. Notice instead of putting in a number, I left a variable. So I know I'm supposed to multiply the length times the width to equal the area. So we know how to multiply 3 times W. And we know that the correct way to write 3 times W is just 3W. So the area of this rectangle is 3W. Now it's time for you to practice on your own. Turn to the next blank page in your journal. Divide your page into 8 equal boxes. You will have 4 problems to solve on this slide. When you finish with these 4, hit play again so you can go to the next slide to finish the next 4 problems.